to our first ever award show. Now, we've got a fantastic night ahead of you, okay? But I would be just a little bit remiss if I didn't talk just a teensy-weensy bit about what's been going on in the news lately. All right, I know. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to that I see with my bare hands too, but what? Is that not PC anymore, huh? What's the right term? Person who happens to be of an enhanced melanin. Listen, this is ridiculous, okay? All of you Hollywood elites out there are attacking me. In fact, my rights are being taken away. I mean, don't you feel like I'm the one who's being repressed right now? I mean, this is just ridiculous. Yes, thank you. Yes, I deserve. Is it just me, or are things getting crazier out there? Yes! I mean, I, for one, I'm not a whole big fan of this fascism thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love joking about the downfall of democracy as it happens before my eyes instead of doing something about it. But yeesh, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Anyway, we've got a long show ahead of us tonight. So if you win an award, do not get political. Just get up here, accept the award, thank who you want to thank, and go all the way, okay? Because if you do get political, we are legally allowed to execute you by firing squad. That wasn't a joke! So without further ado, all right, let's get a look at some of tonight's fantastic nominees. All right! Now, that was some good stuff. I mean, boy, you know, it reminds me of this time I was meal prepping with the wife or husband, and he turned to me and he said, now, what do you think of this whole trans debate thing? And without missing a beat, I held up my limited edition Chick-fil-A LGBT 2022 mug, and I beat him to death with it. So, let's get on with it. Our award show is a little bit different from most award shows that you've probably seen, given the nature of our submissions. A lot of these films and medias may have flown under your radar. So we'll not only be giving out awards tonight, but also we'll be giving you the reasoning behind our choice and a little bit about the art that we're showing. First up, who's it going to be? Who's the person who is going to win the first award? All right, okay. Attention to the court. Everybody settle down. Okay, we got to get on with the show. I know, you guys are wanting to have an uproarious night, but if everyone keeps clapping constantly, well, we're just never going to get through it all, okay? And even though we actually have 5 hours scheduled for this program, we're going to say that we only have 3 so that when we go over by 20, it makes you guys feel like you're getting something extra, all right? Now, first up, we have the 4th noise album from, quote, the Mexican project Gimpy Skank. Shebleb is an ear-shattering, speaker-incinerating wall of sound that evokes feelings of misery and calm. The drone-like noise refrains, not found on other similar projects, but found on tracks like Rick, create a feeling of dissociation on part of the listener. The first and second track fades into the next in a way that allows the audience to flow along with it. Now, while the album may start simply enough, Skank quickly complicates things throughout on the titular Shebleb, and combines the simplistic style of noise refrain from the first track and more complex forms on the second onto the third track, Fishy. Dot Wave contains some startling, concussive drums and violent, scream-like noise refrains throughout, and the distortion on the track makes for a violent end to his violent delights. Another noise album musical project comes from band The Pit. Of their 3 downright assaulting records on their website, each has its own artistic merit. Now, unlike the previously aforementioned group, these tracks often take a lot of time to build up to their noisy affectations, and this works well for the Pit on tracks especially like Seizure Salad and One Day the Fireman Will Come for Us All. Certain tracks start off with what can only be described as an intentional attempt to deafen the audience. And while this is clearly the purpose of said tracks, well, an enjoyable listening experience this does not make, although I'm sure that's probably part of the purpose too. Another album of theirs, Pseudo Poblabar, plays with a more lo-fi aesthetic and further amplifies the crushing, dire sounds off of their previous work, while also containing a couple of free tracks. Now, Grief Eater, their third project, is actually a single 15-minute long song that starts off slow, beautiful, and haunting. Eventually, though, around the 6-minute mark, the track takes a violent turn for terror before descending into complete auditory anarchy. Overall, the Pit stays true to its name. From the album art to the theming on their site to the music itself, this project truly functions as a headfirst dive into a pool of the abyss. Actress Have No Mouth is an experimental video doc by artist Lara Mubaideen from the perspective of the late Marilyn Monroe. The piece takes archival interview footage of Monroe and attaches her innermost thoughts, secrets, and fears from her diaries through subtitles. Now, the effect creates a melancholic subtextual underpin to each of these interviews, and the fact that this project can evoke such a startlingly sad atmosphere despite the technical simplicity and short runtime is a testament to Mubaideen's skill as an artist. Actress Must Have No Mouth shows us the unfortunate way in which Monroe was in fact using her Strasberg training at all times. On screen, yes, but sadly, in her professional and personal life as well. Up next, we have what we're calling the Radiohead Sound Hearts Project, a multicam shoot of a live concert from the audience perspective. One that would be not nearly as effective without the editing chops of submitter Almadea Rodney Latteria. The personality they entrenched to what would otherwise be nothing but a boring multicam shoot cannot be understated. And as opposed to simply cutting back and forth, Latteria makes use of showing multiple angles at once to great effect. Up next, we have the Jesse Newman comedic short film Sean that operates as a time capsule to early YouTube. The short takes proper care to get a wide variety of coverage, and overall, the audio mixing is surprisingly solid, especially considering the fact that Sean was not only a 2006 short, but the fact that was completed just after Newman's graduation from high school. Perhaps the most evocative element of Sean, though, aside from the interesting narration that serves as a connective tissue throughout, and the tightness of the narrative, and the fact that it actually employs actors who aren't all college age, is the inclusion of a now famous actor in the climax. That's right. Sean features perhaps one of the most incredible cameos we have ever seen. From a young, long-haired, black-eyed makeup Miles Teller. Seriously, Miles Teller is actually in this from 2006 when he was barely 18. That's crazy, folks. I know, it's just wild. Ugh. Man. Is it hot in here, or is it just me? Quit it. Listen, I'm telling you guys, these stage lights, they are warm. If anything is warm, it is a set of stage lights. Now let's keep going. Let's keep going. Don't get too distracted, all right? From the very first frame of Alistair Richards' film The Cook, the Egg, and the Hitman is an energy unmatched by the majority of Hollywood blockbusters. From the constant intercutting between scenes, concepts, and ideas, it creates a frantic, literalism throughout. Perhaps the greatest quality in Richard's film is what appears to be the most complete disregard for cinematic continuity we've ever seen. The ceaseless intercutting from a higher quality main camera that appears to switch completely halfway through to a much lower quality close-up B camera to a hyper zoomed in grainy set of footage to the inclusion of black and white archival footage creates a sense of stylistic chameleon. The only drawback is that the use of digital whip pans doesn't really fit coherently with the clear and tangible style of the rest of the film. But overall, it's truly magnificent work. You Can't Stop the Cat is an attempt at harking back to the bygone YouTube poop days of Bubble Buddy, Shrek, and 1,000 others. Samuel Joseph Harding mentions that, quote, "I made this, I poured my heart and soul into, so much that I never made another video again." Now, we find this unfortunate because with some more fine-tuning, Samuel could eventually create a video in the style that amounts to something more than a random intercutting of different memes that they liked at the time on top of existing footage, which falls just short of truly being more than a false imitation of those foregone times of YouTube. However, the potential in Samuel's work is truly something to be admired. Man, listen, I'm serious here. It's really warm. It is really warm, you guys. I'm not trying to mess with you, all right? It's a little toasty in here, okay? It's warm. And there's all right, pardon me. Let's continue. Citizen Kane is allegedly a film by Gabra Brecki, but unfortunately we were unable to find anything other than this stupid black and white garbage, so the best that we can give them is an honorable mention. Now, speaking of Citizen Kane, Colleen submitted, quote, "every season of the hit show Leverage." Now, unfortunately, we don't know what that is, nor do we care enough to Google it, even though it would take less time to do that than it did to write this sentence, so we can only give that an honorable mention as well. Now, speaking of honorable mentions, there was a man who submitted chicken wings. Now, typically in an award ceremony, you don't see many chicken wings winning an award. And unfortunately, we're going to have to follow in that really problematic trend of not awarding chicken wings. And that is only because, unfortunately, the person who submitted those chicken wings could not provide us with any photographic evidence because they had already eaten them. Listen, I know, it's hard to hear something like that. There's only so much that we can do when someone doesn't give us the actual evidence needed to judge the thing that they're telling us to judge. But we're not disqualifying the chicken wings. We're going to do something a little bit better than that. We're going to give them an honorable mention as well. Now, I know that's not the best case scenario. We want to give a lot of awards to these chicken wings, but we just can't unless we see them. So we're going to... We're going to have to move on, okay? We're just going to have to move on.
Jug! Yeah!
Up next, we have VHS, a BCM 240 project, which, although the title sounds pretty long, the video is too. It's a joint venture between Riley Jones and Bradley Sullivan, and the sound is really bad. It kind of hurts my ears, and I don't like it. Also, the style is very confusing. It seems like it can't decide whether or not it wants to take place in modern times as a retrospective, or if it takes place in the 80s when VHS was actually rising to prominence. And we don't care if that's something intentionally flawed to be funny. It forgets that we need a point of reference, or that it still needs to be enjoyable. Please, do ADR. Now, however, Riley and Bradley there is something about your short that we cannot overlook. You have, hands down, the best robot that we have ever seen here. People, isn't that incredible? Yes! Now, thank you. Now, it was worth sitting through the whole thing. All that terrible audio, it was worth sitting through just to see that robot. So thank you very much, you guys. Seriously. Tesoro Corazon is a short film about isolation, loneliness, and depression created by Marco Garcia. The film overall shows great promise in things like framing particularly, and its use of hyper-stylized color grades at points works throughout heavily in its favor. However, the short unfortunately falls into many of the tropes of student films: black and white, dark subject matter, and a person meandering around a forest for an exceptionally long period of time. Overall, though, Tesoro Corazon is brought up by the clear care put into it, and the Foley work, and the fantastical elements it brings to the table. And as a result, it becomes something more than just the sum of its parts. The Global Warming Experiment is a found footage style opus by Jose Figueroa and at points falls flat. When, for example, actors seem to break character in a way that feels accidentally included. But, the other than its incredible environmental message, the Global Warming Experiment has other very clear highlights. For example, the musical choices are used to great effect, and when the story becomes more focused on the actual tests of our scientists, up next is something that it transcends the boundaries of parody. It truly is something perhaps from the heavens, and the name of that piece is Constitution Style. Constitution Style is a parody of the now infamous Gangnam Style by Psy. And to be completely honest, if we're gonna get real for a second, in today's political climate, it might be exactly what we need. Although Constitution Style was created in 2013 as a parody of sorts, it hardly wears its influence on its sleeve. It manages to transcend the original by a factor of at least 10, due in no small part to lines such as, "Hey, texture Congress." 19th says that girls that finally cast their votes now. It keeps changing more than ever, did you know? Well, now you know. And many, many others. The only part of Constitution Style that falters, however, is in its lip syncing. There are virtually no moments in which the actor on camera lines whatsoever with the lyrics of the song. And additionally, Nick Mills' take on the 13th Amendment is actually a bit sophomore. It's kind of childish, because in reality, we all know that the 13th Amendment didn't really end slavery. It just converted it into something that you have to imprison people in our criminal justice system first before you can enact, because prisoners are allowed to be made into slaves. So when he says that the 13th Amendment ended slavery, that's a bit of a misnomer, and we took some issues with that. But overall, Constitution Style, really fantastic work that easily transcends the OG, so to speak. Up Up next, we have the wonderful, the wondrous, the wondiferous Star Wars parody original cut 2012. That being a 14-minute masterclass in cinematic storytelling. Now, this 6th grade school project by Dylan McNair employs a talk show framing device for our main Star Wars parody. Functioning like a Greek chorus, the Lame Talk Show comments on the story at large, providing insightful commentary over time. Featuring Nerf guns, mixed performances, fourth wall breaking, accents, and a wide variety of locations, and a Francis Ford Coppola-style long take, or 5, this capsule into the past is a perfect way to do parody. Plus, it has way less blatantly homophobic language than McNair's iPhone parody, which makes it fun for the whole family. Now, if this is the original cut, we would love to see any of the other finalized cuts that may be floating around, because who knows? Perhaps this could be like a final cut of the Blade Runner a movie type deal. We don't know. We don't know until we see it. So everyone, message Dylan. Tell him, hey, buddy, release your other cuts, pal. We don't just want the original. We want the director's cut. We want the theatrical release. We want the unrated version. We want the Blu-ray cut. We want the VHS cut. We want the DVD cut. We want the Laserdisc cut. We want the Betamax cut. We want the CED cut. We want the mini disc cut. We want the PSP mini disc cut. We want the GameCube disc cut. We want the PS2 disc cut. We want the Xbox original disc cut. We want the HD DVD disc cut. We want every type of cut, dude. Put it on a 5-inch floppy disk, man. Put it on the 10-inch floppy disk. Put it on a 2-inch floppy disk. I don't care, but I want to be able to watch the Star Wars parody that you've made across a variety of devices, from my Commodore 64 to my Commodore 128. I want you to cover that whole range, Dylan. So step up, dude. Step up. Release it. Oh, my God. Text him. Text this guy. Where is he? Is he in the audience right now? Are you out there? No? Okay, fine. Whatever. Oh, buddy. Let's move on. Our next short, and we can really call it a short because it's exactly 30 seconds, is When You Have a Green Screen and No Ideas. Now, this is one of the best microfilm efforts that we have ever seen, especially by Matthew Mandley. This short features not only one of the best subversions of green screen tropes of all time, but also a Death Grip remix, and that makes it firmly land in our top 300 of the year. Give it up, everyone. According to Mackenzie Marshall Kierstead, the now privated short, My Grandpa's Revenge, is, quote, basically one of the first film projects we ever made in our first-year production class. We can tell. Up next on the award chopping block, we have another musical project, baby. That's right, we have got a 5-song album. And that EP has a lot of things you don't see nowadays. You don't see a lot of live instrumentation nowadays. You don't see a lot of songs, a lot of tracks, a lot of albums with multiple musicians. You don't see a lot of tracks that were recorded in one take or less. And you don't see a lot of tracks that are this EP. Now, this EP is called the Sunshiny Day EP by John and the Nice Boys. Now, it's perhaps one of the best albums recorded and improvised on a phone that we've ever seen. Now, their cover of My Kind of Woman by Mac DeMarco, although lyrically and musically it sounds nothing like the original, does feature an interesting, albeit very confusing message about the trans community in modern-day society, which, unfortunately, is impossible to make heads or tail on. It could be either a galaxy brain trans rights anthem or a blatantly mean-spirited and horrible attempt at making fun of trans people. Now, while we would like to think it's the first, the song Leisure Suit Larry seems to go in contrast with that. But overall, the album is an impressive technical achievement. Continuing to our next category, we have We Are Straight, the best night of your day, which is a transcendental comedy sketch from start to finish about repressed sexuality and fourth wall breaking. The direct callouts by the actors about lav mics allows for impeccable sound and insightful commentary. Although ending abruptly, we can look forward to a sequel someday from the improvists Merrick Ollum and Kane Peterson. Up next, for another honorable mention of sorts, we have Shrek 2, which was submitted by Declan Chima into the category of To Win Greatest Movie Ever. Unfortunately, we don't have categories in this award show, and that was really fucking stupid. But you know what's not dumb is DNA Project.mp4, a video by, quote, Anthony, Rudy, and Zach, which appears to be some kind of a science project. Now, the sheer amount of huevos that these three must have had submitting this to a class full of peers and a teacher is absolutely astounding, considering it starts off in the middle of DNA by Kendrick Lamar, where he immediately raps about cocaine, which they illustrate visually on screen before even getting into anything about DNA at all whatsoever. Throughout the film, we take a tour through the cell with the metaphor of country, city, house, and eventually DNA. Throughout, they blatantly talk about having sex in thinly veiled metaphor, brandish Comic Sans like a weapon, and repeatedly sample Kendrick Lamar. The only downsides are the stereotype of naming the one black character Tyrone, and the horrible Marvel trailer that they taped onto the end for absolutely no reason. But overall, there is a lot of merit in DNA Project.mp4. Speaking of merit, Connor Clark has made short work of the JPEG Mafia song Rainbow Six in his incredibly well-edited fan-made music video. And honestly, a comment on the video itself by Ramen Bisagi actually sums this up best, better than we ever could, saying, so many of these fan videos try way too hard to be artsy or be used to just promote the people making them. But this was neither. This is as close to the source material I've seen a fan MV get since Rhinestone Eyes, and that shit took 6 years, so that's saying something. And besides all that, you've made something that still stands on its own in a way that topples so many mainstream editors and producers. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but keep it up. This was, in all honesty, brilliant. And we couldn't agree more. That's right. It was really a great piece. Now stop. Quit it. It's warm in here, you guys. It's really warm. I don't know what you want me to do. It's freaking warm in here, okay? Quit it. Yeah. This is why everyone thinks artists are perverts, okay? You guys keep chiming up every time I'm just trying to cool down a little bit. Making me look like a weirdo up here. Let's move on. The Deathline trilogy by Drown Your Venom is a music video / short film. While the color work throughout the film can often feel amateur and ill done, the music itself is anything but. And while this kind of music isn't something we listen to often, the clean vocals and clear instrumentation, we found that to be refreshingly done, if a bit overcompressed. While there are moments throughout the film that end up coming across as edgy, there are just as many that come off carrying an intriguingly serious weight that works surprisingly well. Up next, we have a short entitled Mouthful of Shit by Benjamin Woodard about a man who beats himself with a sock full of thumbtacks, locks himself in a bathroom, eats his own feces, then entrails, then dies of dysentery. Listen, Benjamin, while it's very clear that you would like to be the next great shock artist a la Lars von Trier, in this short, you're lacking the technical ability and storytelling chops to actually do so, pushing this away from something like Antichrist and much closer to something like a very, 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 very cut-rate Human Centipede Part 2. On a much more artistically valid, funny, entertaining, and lighthearted note, we have something submitted by Sandor Hujbir and made by his close friend Adventures. Yodel Wave, a surprising banger of electronic yodel remix that sends us down a rabbit hole of yodelers from surprisingly different countries all over the world, and honestly, we thank you for that. I mean, it was truly fun. Now, the chorus alone makes the whole track worth a listen. And we couldn't recommend doing something like that enough. For our next award, we have the Rise Paris short Cool Dad that straddles the line between belligerence and brilliance. If the budget and technical skill were just a bit higher, it would be on par with any 2013 Filthy Frank lore video. The stilted, obtuse dialogue, the stock photos of people interacting with actual people, the deliberately terrible color grade in the interview scene, although not completely coming together, there are pieces of greatness in Cool Dad, and we commend you for that. We all know that good, short tutorials are something really hard to come by these days. I mean, sure, you have your how-to basics and your college cooking tips, but what if I don't feel like destroying my entire house every time I make a meal? This is where Josh Beck's Beck Labs PSA #1 comes in. An incredible master course in drinking liquid, Beck comes in hot at the top of the video with a manic energy that we can only commend so far! The film El Sino de la Flor movie, FPLC 11, by Frank A. Alonso Cintrone, features the iHome High H66B Black MP3 docking alarm clock radio. This radio alarm includes an FM radio, wake to iPod, inline capabilities, Reason 8 speaker tech for clarity of sound, and a clock that automatically adjusts to the time of year. Murder-Go-Round, or Death, Duct Tape, and a Merry-Go-Round, is a 2017 film by Austin Sprake. The story functions as a, quote, mystery of sorts. Every couple of minutes, it switches perspective between the now-dead characters in order to build a narrative and to make the audience guess the killer. Unfortunately, every character seems to operate as a deliberate stereotype and never ascends past this incredibly shallow and often unrealistic portrayal. Additionally, the blown-out audio from the narration of almost every character is very disruptive, to say the least. The idea is very fun, from the concept of the murder-go-round to the changing perspectives of each character, but the execution makes guessing the killer feel like a fruitless endeavor. Up Up next, we have The Untitled Show by Rory Posting. Now, this was submitted by Karam Sheriff. To be clear, Karam, who will not be winning an award tonight, Karam, you're not getting the award. Rory Posting gets this award, and you cannot accept it on their behalf. That's not how this works. So you don't get an award, Karam, just Rory Posting. He's the only one who's getting one, all right? Buddy, you don't get one. Now, The Untitled Show is a public access style program clearly inspired by shows such as Steve Brule, Tim and Eric, and others off of Adult Swim. Now, while this pilot episode is a bit rough around the edges with elements like uncensored and incorrectly panned vocal tracks in the interview segment and some elements that don't capture the tone of a public access show, the overall concept and execution is great. We would love to, in the future, see some kind of continuation of the Untitled Project show because there is a lot of potential in this piece. Do you love stagecraft? Well, so do you. And it's pretty clear that our next short film does as well. Wonderwall is a film by Alex Kahn on the trials and tribulations of being a theater kid and the interpersonal relationships that come with it. Sadly, the theatrical background that this short is based on means that we could very easily count the total number of shots throughout this 8-minute short on one hand. Coverage is key, and this film is kneecapped by a lack of it. Theatrical elements work very well here, though. Hold on, okay? Just stop, all right? It's really, you guys don't understand. It's hot up here, okay? It's really hot. It's really hot up here. And if you guys were up here, you would be doing this too, okay? You guys would be doing it too because it's really warm. Now, New Age Slavery is our next submission, and it's a music video shot and directed by someone.
Yes!
Now, our next submission is New Age Slavery, a music video that works very well in a variety of ways. The harsh front lighting on our subject and the black and white high contrast grade handheld camera, they all aid to the grungy, preppy punk aesthetic that the song swims in. The lead singer in the video does such a great job emoting and lip syncing that it nearly holds one's attention for the whole 3-minute runtime. Just about. However, a little bit more in the way of variety would help, but it doesn't break the music video at all. If it was much longer, though, it would start to crack at the edges. However, again, it doesn't because it isn't, and as a result, it works really well. It really does. It works very great. Deus Films Eden was submitted by Denholm Pearson. The hyper-saturated corporate intro evokes feelings similar to digital ARG projects we've seen and contrasts impeccably with the harsh jump to a dreary, gray, curse-laden drug deal gone wrong. Even at its most neon, when our main character jumps into a binge and hops on his VR headset, the real world still remains desaturated in a way that shows more restraint than most filmmakers would really give. While Eden headset sometimes feels a bit choppy, this adds to the overall glitched-out capitalist nightmare the film is trying to evoke. Eden held our attention from start to finish and managed to never overstay its welcome. In fact, the Black Mirror-esque world of Eden left us wanting more. A lot more. Eden is an absolutely fantastic project, and it works as a great illustration of how to do a lower-budget short film that feels nothing like it. Sin Punto Final by submitter Gabriel Lira Medina is one of a couple of 48-hour film projects we received. And while we only understood parts of the dialogue, given that no subtitles were provided, the story itself was clear. The technical chops were evident, and the sound was very good compared to the majority of shorts made by a young crew, especially considering how little time they had to make this. The mystery, as it unfolds, a girl looking for her father, worked supremely well. And honestly, the only part that falls a bit flat are a few of the performances. However, the fact that, again, this was made by an incredibly compressed time scale and a group of a big cast of characters is truly impressive. And it blows our 48-hour film from years ago well out of the water. Up next, we have not a short film, not two, not three, not four, not an EP, not an album, not a track, not a song, not a vinyl, not a disc, not anything of the sort. We have an entire YouTube channel, a channel, baby. That's right. We have an entire YouTube channel with a whopping 4 videos and a wondrous 2 subscribers. Now, you might think those 2 stats alone are worth a mark of quality, but we here know that you have to have at least 12 subscribers before you are certified YouTube Gold. But don't let that fool you, because as cringy as a name for a channel as the Jedi Joker might sound, the channel itself is actually anything but. This thing has been around for 12 years, and it features hits such as The Ribosome, an infomercial, a project edited by Walker Jones, Zombies, an intense animated short that functioned as their final on an advanced digital music production class, a bit of a faff later, a compilation of clips from different Top Gear episodes meant to construct a Frankenstein's monster of a car review, and Ja Coltrane Giant Steps on the Moon, which is a mashup of jazz legend John Coltrane's Giant Steps and Sting's Walking on the Moon to interesting effect. The Jedi Joker, contrary to what the incredibly cringe-inducing title may imply, is not a dumping ground for random incoherent garbage. Instead, it functions as a detailing of a person who probably has a lot of projects in the background, offline, in their professional or personal work, but still finds time every couple of years to drop a college project or 2 on their channel for fun. And that makes Jedi Joker worth a quick binge. All right, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the show so far, because up next we have a Western project by the name of... All right, no one is going to check out what that noise is, so I have to do it myself, because we have hundreds of stagehands in here, and not a single one... No. I'm getting a thing in my ear. They're telling me not to go check it out, but I'm going to do it, because someone needs to tell whoever, whatever, however that is, to shut up, because we're recording an award ceremony under here. Don't they understand that the Academy is an important part of... This is important. What we're doing here is important. So I'm going to go check out what that noise is. I'll be right back. We're just going to take like an intermission or something, okay? So go fill up your popcorn that you shouldn't have in a tuxedo. Go fill up all your stuff and your sody pops and your snacks and your, ooh, baby, it's a dong. Go fill all that stuff up and then come back in. and we'll kick off the award ceremony again because I need to go check out what that is because no one else is doing it, so I'm going to have to. the same person from before. I'm the same host that was here earlier. Nothing happened to me in the hotel, and I destroyed the thing that was making that noise. So there's no need to go investigate or do anything. Nobody go through that door because you won't find anything. Let's continue with the awards, baby. Oh, sigro. Our next short is Wilfred Undone, a Western film submitted by Colin McFadder on behalf of both Cullen and someone by the last name of McCreary. The film opens up with some fantastic-looking landscapes on the countryside, and almost immediately there's a clear care for the art of the Western here. Okay, there's a dedication from evoking the tones and stylings of a bygone era film, from the color grade to the grain on the footage that we see, to the choice of yellow font, to the warm colors and bulbous, juicy font choices, and even the use of zooms throughout. The only thing that sometimes hinders this idea is the use of handheld, which sometimes it works really well, but other times there's noticeable micro jitter that instantly pulled us out of the really well done filmic quality that works so flawlessly the rest of the time. Really, this is more of a nitpick, but when it works so consistently throughout and works so well at achieving a certain aesthetic language, even a small betrayal to pull you back into the 21st century feels like a gunman taking you down. Like a gunslinger, get it? Because it's Western. Additionally, the muzzle flashes included occasionally felt as if they were laid on top of existing footage, not necessarily integrated, like they weren't flowing correctly with the grain. And the use of modern American money as opposed to a prop Western Times cash took us out of it a little bit too. However, the story of Wilfred on the Run often works so well that, again, these are really minor issues, and that's a testament to how little there is to actually criticize. Additionally, there is not a single line of dialogue until the 12-minute mark, which can sometimes be a film's downfall, but not in this case. Here, it actually works to its advantage, especially given that sometimes the vocal performances can leave a little bit to be desired, and the score and atmospheric noise serve to paint a landscape for the audience that works much better than traditional dialogue ever could for Wilfred Undone. And that is why we respect all of the choices in Wilfred Undone. And we know that even down to a handheld camera that induces micro jitter, there was reasoning behind doing that. It was something that was thought out in advance. And so we can only help but respect it. Up next, we have Butch Trailer, Der Gastfeldkater, a trailer for a German version of Puss in Boots created by Greg Ferguson as a project for his undergrad. This biggest issue with this project is probably the changing aspect ratios. Oh, and probably the fact that there were no subtitles, and I don't speak German, dude! You gotta put subtitles in this, man! You're put it. Ah! Whoa! Oh, is anyone else freezing cold in here. I'm so cold. Please, someone get me a hat. I've been cold this whole time because I'm the same person who came up here before. Sarah is Matt Pylan's, quote, mediocre sophomoric super film 16 short millimeter film school short. Matt made sure to let us know that they, quote, think it looks pretty, but we couldn't help but agree. Though this may be due to the intrinsically cinematic qualities of 16-minute film that is exposed correctly and not to the particularly incredibly done framing or lighting choices. However, that's not to say that Sarah is without positives. It's quite the contrary, actually. The sound is very solid, and the level of coverage for shooting film is also relatively solid, despite the costs associated with shooting on an analog medium. Additionally, this project actually does a really good job of remaining short, self-contained, and relatively cheery throughout. So even though it never overstays its welcome, it really functions as a nice slice of life project about being downtrodden in a big boy city. Ooh, city. Ooh, I'm totally normal. I'm not a parasitic organism of any kind. I'm not some kind of earlier, struggling to survive. So you don't even need to ask me. You don't even need to ask. And if you do, I'll beat you to death. I will surely beat your ass. All right, let's move on. Again, nobody go in that door. You don't need to. Don't go in there. Don't. Bermuda Street is a short by Alex Kellett submitted by submitter Oscar Parapaperi. And while there are some cool elements like the foggy sets throughout and the ever-mounting sense of anxiety, made more intense by hyper close-ups and strung-together scenes, the audio quality makes us suffer significantly, and some of the performances leave a lot to be desired, unfortunately. Uncut Gems is an incredible parody project submitted by Shane Cooley, a friend of Video Canal. Although even calling it a parody is pretty disrespectful to Uncut Gems itself, because it really transcends the concept of parody. Centering around a Tim Hortons cup valued at, quote, priceless, and starring a genius of acting in every role, Uncut Gems is nothing short of a masterpiece. Our Howie stand-in, Ben, is constantly spending money he doesn't have, hooking up with his mistress, using Tim Hortons rewards as collateral, being insulted by everyone, and chugging relentlessly out of a Belete mocha pot. Almost exactly like in Uncut Gems. And we even get a chance to see inside of Ben's Tim's shop, in which he sells bagels, Tim's Bites, coffee, and everything in between, while describing how he's going through, quote, a bit of a divorce right now. Overall, this is easily 10 times better than Uncut Gems, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Safdie brothers actually stole this to make their little movie. I wouldn't be even remotely surprised. There's that knocking again. I really thought that I took care of that. That's so strange. We should move on to our next clip. Next, we have sequence 02_34, which is, quote, a loud experimental shitpost by artist Alexa Feeney, functioning as a sort of musical visualizer for a song XXX I Would Never Stop You, XXX by 100 gecs. Feeney does a fantastic job emulating a visual language that it perfectly encapsulates the blistering, glitchy, aggressive, and colorful production behind 100 gecs song. Although a slight bit more variety in the visualizations would help it from getting stale by the end. Mallory Warwick's short film about my dog is, as the title might suggest, a short film about what we can only assume is her dog. However, a better description of this short might be a micro video about my feral rat creature, because that's what her evil hellhound is. Whoa! Give me a second. Walk Me Home by Etienne Dyer is what can only be described as an editing montage project set to Carly Rae Jepsen's I Didn't Just Come Here to Dance. It's fun. Oh, give me a second, you guys. I'm very cold all of a sudden, and I'm struggling a little bit here. I've been cold this whole time, and no one's gotten me a blanket. I've been asking for a blanket since the start of the awards ceremony, but no one's getting me one. Everything is fine. I've been fine this whole time. Ugh. The carpet warmed me up real good, baby. So let's keep rolling through every single person who submitted something to the awards show. Up next, we have something that, according to director Alexander Nebeski, is, quote, a film I made for a 24-hour film festival about a time-traveling Nazi robot sent to destroy the environment, called Enter the Ozone. Now, quality of the film aside, this was clearly made for a 48-hour film competition as detailed by the descriptive YouTube title. Not 24 hours, and as a result, we have to lower how impressed we are by it by at least half. That being said, the ridiculously, purposefully dumb script is suitably hilarious, and the plot is just as belligerent as it might seem in the best way possible. So again, much like our last 48-hour film, the fact that this was thrown together so quickly despite our deliberately lowered expectations is still impressive given how well shot it is and how good the majority of the audio is as well. Do you like corn chips? What about Doritos? If you said yes, then you'll like Jack Mang's Bags, a Dorito and Downfall of Humanity short film that manages to somehow be funny, serious, and make incredibly efficient use of its storytelling. Normally, 2 massive time jumps over a 1 minute span would not work, but here it does. Instead of feeling slow, Bags sets up its premise quickly and effectively, doing a great job immediately getting us into the action. Bags is a short that doesn't abuse its audience like many others do, and it functions as a mostly dialogueless experience, which we think is just peachy. That's true cinema right there. Up next, we have... Up next on the award flow, submitter Hunter Topsy Fitzroy gave us Blue Powerade TV, Episode 1. Another tutorial beacon, another tutorial buoy in a sea of literal tutorial garbage. Something that is quite refreshing to see, much like the other tutorial we received earlier. As for Blue Powerade TV, the random changes in aspect ratio, audio quality, lighting, and style work in favor of what the Blue Powerade boys are clearly trying to go for. However, as for entertainment, it actually takes away from the end result. Most of all, the slow pacing and improvisational quality. We love the fact that they take the time to drink and review their own horrific milk-based concoctions at the end, however. And if the future installments from the Blue Powerade boys are just a bit tighter in the edit, we could see some massive growth in their following very soon. Lounge Pants, a project by Brian Kish, is, quote, Dada or something. Lounge Pants is an unnerving montage that fits squarely in that camp. For those unfamiliar, Dada was an artistic movement in the 20th century in which surrealist artists decided that being an elitist asshole was okay, as long as it made your art less enjoyable to experience. Monin is director Jamie Rodriguez's first short from film school, and we have to say we've seen plenty of people graduate film school with films much worse than this. The title card, made out of what appears to be actual milk and cereal, along with the use of slow motion, show a real care and maturity for the craft that people just don't have these days. That isn't to say that Monin is without flaw, however, because oftentimes the DSLR jitter is very, very prominent. And if a shot isn't locked down, that is. And to us, that immediately takes a film down in terms of quality. And additionally, we worry about Rodriguez's use of copyrighted music from a legal standpoint. Also, while we appreciate the use of framing in the final shot, it goes on for quite a while, and the credits fall into the same trap as our first short, that is, being way too long. But again, this short really shows an understanding of the craft that most people don't grasp until well into their tenure of being a film student. And oftentimes, from my experience, which is, again, I'm the person who was here before, they never grasp it. Another first film short is... All right, somebody stop. Don't stop it. Don't look at the banging or hear the banging, okay? Because there isn't actually, I've come to terms with it. There actually is not any banging happening over there. So do not pay attention to it. Just don't. Don't pay attention to it because there's nothing happening over there, okay? Just don't look over there. Do not pay attention to the banging. And please, nobody go investigate it. Anywho, another first film school short. This time, from Gabriel Lira Medina, is Fantasma en Entramiento, a story of ghosts and goblins. The opening sequence has some very good chuckles, and the concept of each of the ghost characters is quite hilarious because until about halfway through, the audience has no point of reference, and it kind of makes you believe that everyone is a ghost in this world, which, however, it's actually not true. Additionally, the lack of dialogue really helps create a sense of physicality to the humor in the short. The only place that this falls flat, however, is in its pacing and lack of shot variety, which we are sure are things that will be ironed out as Gabriel Lira Medina continues their filmic tenure. Do you hear that? Do you hear it? It's not the banging that doesn't exist. It's something much better. It's coming from above. It's the voice of God by Emma Wood, a terrifying surrealist micro-nightmare. Being only 8 seconds as it manages to invoke a startling sense of dread, unmatched by most films that are double or even triple that length. Up next, we have another similarly length project that is not really similarly length. It's about a minute long. It's a video project by one Julia McTaggart. Though untitled, this colorful short montage of disconnected clips is enough to earn its spot on the award stage. Two slots are taken up by one Isaac Tessman, who I guess just thinks he's better than everybody else who submitted projects to this award show. And you know what? Gary Come Home, 8-bit version, is a song submitted and presumably crafted by filmmaker Isaac Tessman. And it's actually a pretty solid chiptune. But on the other hand, Scrappy Doo tribute Sexy Naughty Bitchy Me is a miscarriage of justice, and we take back everything we just said about Isaac Tessman, because he deserves, he's a bastard, and he deserves to be hanged publicly. Our third short in this micro trilogy of pieces is The Adventures of Trace McGee, submitted to us by Trace Clinton, who plays the titular McGee in this 2011 Western Odyssey. Now, unfortunately, the clear cinematic and artistic achievements present in Trace McGee are undercut by the fact that the cowards at YouTube HQ copyright claimed and subsequently muted the audio of it, and that's not nice. Swinging back around lengthwise, which is always something that's good to see, we have Gay, a sitcom-style debut short by filmmaker Sam Tedeschi for something only originally intended to be a school project. This 21-minute long exodus starring like 10 people is quite a bite to bite off. Now, the variety of sets and locations help tremendously in creating a moving story, and the intimate scenes with a variety of characters help establish a real sense of depth, despite the fact that some of the characters don't have much on-screen time or on-screen presence for that matter. Some scenes, however, go on a bit long, and the cinematography leaves a lot to be desired. Overall, the sound work is mostly solid, except for some moments of blown-out audio when loud objects slam into others. The twists and turns of Gay, however, make up for any lack of polish. At this point, we are about squarely in the third leg of the award ceremony. Something that all of us have and contain deep within our third eye is a third leg. Third egg. And as we are firmly in the third egg, let it be known that every single one of the people who have submitted today is a good... let's continue. Amanda is a short film directed by Linda Diaz and submitted by cinematographer Aaron Caceres. It starts off tense when a girl poisons the drink of the person she is mid-conversation with, hooking the audience pretty quickly. The lighting of Amanda was clearly something with a lot of thought put into it, and at times, the harsh, angular look works to great effect. Now, other times, however, it creates a strangely unnatural look that diffusion would help eliminate, or if at points this was intentional, it would be helpful to have it coming from a more realistic lighting source, because a lot of the harsh lighting was very head-on, much like these stage lights are, but in a house setting in which Amanda takes place, that most lights aren't directional, forward-facing lights with no diffusion on them. So it felt a little bit strange. Even if it was like a doctor's office or something, the lighting would be feel like it's coming from above for the most part. But the performances helmed by the two characters of Amanda are actually fantastic, especially that I'm pretty sure this was a student film, so it especially is the case here. The storytelling works quite well as well, and it doesn't drag at any point. It actually feels like it ends exactly when and where it should, which isn't something you find very often with most films, especially not ones made by a younger crew, which is nice to see. Calcium is kind of the start of a few really well done horror shorts that we happen to get right in a row, which is very strange, but very cool. These next couple of shorts particularly really stood out to us as having a huge mark of quality. They kind of transcended the normal type of thing where we don't have to critique as much in the way of not executing technical elements correctly. It's more just if we thought that something worked. Other than, the usual of, oh, this thing worked, this didn't, there is a general guideline for how we view cinema. So not having to focus as much on things like that is nice. Every frame of Calcium drips with professionalism, which means we were able to focus more on what the actual story had to offer. Reminiscent of films like Dogtooth, The Room, or even Brigsby Bear to some extent, Calcium takes the viewer on an excursion through a very particular claustrophobic existence to great tension-inducing effect. It uses dramatic irony very, very well. In some stories, knowing a reveal before a character can suck all of the dread out of a story, but not here. In fact, it does the opposite. We have a general idea of what is about to happen, and we are powerless to stop it. Stop it! The plot is gripping, the story is horrific, and the execution is fantastically done! The next one in the series of cinematic solvents is Womb. A graphic, violent, and startlingly well-executed short on the topic of pregnancy, fear of motherhood, and much, much more by David Ward. At points, the uncomfortable headroom, now made famous by Sam Esmail, comes into play, well before the concept ever hit the mainstream. The 60mm film look really plays into both the colorwork and themes of the short. The magenta cast over every frame and the unsaturated nature gives elements an old-school horror feel, while at the same time creating a wonderful contrast to the elements that are actually drained of color. For example, our protagonist, Claire. The first 5 minutes of Womb feels like an hour in the best possible way, and the mounting, droning fear and anxiety that Claire feels is exacerbated by the surroundings. And Bailey Thompson, the actor that plays Claire, does a killer job of doing it. Deeply unsettling, low-pitched drones throughout the film only serve to emphasize the Eraserhead-esque concepts within it. Ward himself mentions that it is, quote, filled with Cronenberg worship and contains at least one direct reference to The Exorcist. But while Womb's influences are clear, they never bring it down or prevent it from standing firmly on its own. Like me, see, I can stand firmly on my own because I'm the same. I'm so cold. Unlike our next short, Creme Brulee, which is a love letter to the food submitted by none other than Rena to mix the libs. Not so much the creation of said food, but instead a near sickening lust, a sickening lust for all things creme brulee, regardless of taste or quality. The unnamed characters in the short pursue the dessert like a narcotic, and in the most dangerous ways imaginable. Really, this short could serve as a critique on the modern opioid crisis currently sweeping America at present. Just one bite of the substance sends the characters into a feverish trip, a place laden with one thing, the only thing that they will have ever or will ever desire again. That thing, of course, being creme brulee. Pot bun, or perhaps Rottweiler in English, is a smoky black and white, mostly dialogueless, high-contrast film about love letters lost by Vasil Bogdanov. With great old-school techniques and a lovely title sequence, the only downside of this film is the brutal depiction of sexual violence that happens out of nowhere halfway through in our protagonist's mind. Luckily, though, at least this part is shot equally as well as the rest of the film. Smoky cinematic squabble from Vasyl Bogdanov seems to roughly translate to "there was one time on Samakov," and again works really well at a short, self-contained, stylized narrative, this time being a Western. While not as intense and skillfully executed as Rottweiler, this is a pretty solid one-punchline comedic short and doesn't overstay its welcome, clocking it at around a minute and a half, which makes it feel worth it to get to the build-up, but not too short to where it doesn't have the same impact. Tram is, quote, an experimental short documentary film of Lizzie De Beers. According to Lizzie, that is. To us, it really appears to be a 41-second vertical video of a tram inside of one, and it's just a shot of someone's legs. Up next, we have Patrick James Clare's animated masterpiece, Stick Fight, which was achieved by this creative genius at only 12 years of age. Taking a throw anything and see what sticks approach to this film is a fight sequence for the frickin' ages, man. It features helicopters, bombs, gunfights, and even an alien at one point. Stick Fight is perhaps the best animation since Snow White. There, I said it. You can boo me all you want. Oh, you're not going to? Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. I got lost. I got lost. I got lost. I got lost in a 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Deluxe 700, listening to the Summer Place theme by Blaze Porches, as is the title implies, archival footage of someone driving presumably lost in a 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Deluxe 700 set to what can only be described as the Summer Place theme. And we love the calm, relaxed atmosphere it provokes, along with what appears to be a copied paper or Wikipedia entry about GM and Chevy. It appears to be, it provides something visually similar and more coherent than those "you're crying while your parents fight downstairs and you're listening to Joji's attention" type videos. And it works much better in the long run, as far as we are concerned. According to Reed Belk, the myth of Sisyphus is his, quote, student film. We couldn't agree more. Christopher Torres' Zombad is a modern take on the zombie genre in which those affected become digital zombies, so to speak. The comedic tone, the hilarious visual effects work, it all goes well in Zombad's favor, but some of the overly loud audio cues actually distract from the otherwise solidly funny pieces of work and CG and compositing that are being used in deliberately funny, successfully funny ways. Darnell's The Scarlet Killings, according to the film itself, a movie written without a script, and according to one of the people behind it, a Christmas miracle. Funny enough, though, despite the lack of a script, for the most part, the technical competency of The Scarlet Killings is actually very surprisingly good. Although some of the nighttime shots are woefully underexposed and the use of the white balance setting is sometimes a concern, it functions competently in a way that most films don't, giving you a clear sense of geography and using framing well throughout. The Scarlet Killings overall has a sense of inside jokiness throughout the entire piece, which makes for an experience that, while I may not get every sentence or allusion to a personal project that is thrown out or joke that is thrown out, it rings true to a group that had a lot of fun while making it. And if you're not having fun while you're doing this, what's the frickin' point? Am I right? Bjorn Otto Ogderson's Prey may be nothing like the video game it was presumably based on, but in many ways stays true to its title anyway. The opening sequence of whispers in dark forests lit up by harsh directional light before cutting to a downright fear-inspiring silhouette for what feels like an uncomfortably long period of time worked very well in establishing a tone for Prey. Although certain shots in Prey feel amateurish and oftentimes the well-selected musical cues cut in and out abruptly in a way that only takes away from the story, the creature design and solely focused plot work very, very well in creating an atmospheric thriller from start to finish. Up next, we have Manny Quadricubros' created short called Destroying, one of the worst sequels ever made. And to be clear, the thumbnail for this short is a picture of a Blu-ray of Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. So first of all, Star Wars Episode 4 was an incredibly unique blend of influences, technique, luck, editing, and practical effects. A perfect lightning in a bottle moment that was never to be replicated. With 7 other movies in the official numbered Star Wars canon, 8 on the way, and an absolute slew of different directors, budgets, and tastes of an era thrown in the series, could that moment ever be captured again? Yes, absolutely. Obviously, this moment was not recaptured with 5 and 6 for many reasons, first of them being the palpable tone shift after director George Lucas left. Now, with the addition of 40-plus years of hindsight, it's really easy to dissect the original Star Wars film to death, over and under-analyzing every single frame and condensing it down to a master's thesis worth of information on exactly how to perfectly execute a new Star Wars film. However, with episodes 5 and 6, they didn't do that. They had exactly one movie, meaning the experimentation and the ability to look back 40 years would not yet be possible. As a result, the lackluster effects directing and many of the rehashed plots from 5 and 6 don't age as gracefully as the original. Episode 1 through 3 have been absolutely decimated in terms of analysis on where everyone went wrong and why they are a complete travesty. This is, of course, 1,000% accurate and not at all up to interpretation, so it's not worth spending more time on. Now, as for the Disney or new Star Wars generation, starting with Episode 7, we can see a much different take on the universe, a far away and long ago. The mainline effort, especially after the JJ Episode 7 established Star Wars as what people remember it to be like, not what it actually is. Objectively, Episode 7 is a better directed, better acted, better DP'd, better VFX movie than episode 4. But that does not matter at all. If it did, people would rejoice that episode 7 is a better movie, but it isn't. Despite all of its ham-fisted attempts to recapture nostalgia, it fails. Why? Because it is a synthesis of what made the series good. Its synthesis of what made the series good to begin with is 100% superficial in nature, shooting on 35mm film like the original. What a waste of film stock. George Lucas didn't shoot episode 4 on 35 because he wanted to. He did it because digital wasn't invented yet. In fact, the record shows ILM is embracing the format incredibly early on with the 2 prequels, constant callbacks, plots rehashed from the 4th one, and it's all tropes and shit. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that episode 8 is the best Star Wars film since episode 4. It works as a film outside of needing to be a Star Wars movie. It pays homage to the OG, sure, but more importantly, it actually pays homage to the movie's influences. From the conceptually unique plot with a variety of subtle world building based off of samurai instead of pushing everything to have some exact incestuous Star Wars relationship, episode 8 works because it subverts the normal Star Wars norms and because it is structurally a better movie in every way. It is what any sane human being who actually appreciates episode 4 ought to consider as improving upon and expanding what makes Star Wars so special to begin with. Not callbacks, not superficial He breaks a copy of the Jason Bourne Blu-ray. I just remembered he doesn't end up breaking a copy of The Last Jedi. He calls it subversive masterpiece, and then he breaks a copy of the Jason Bourne film that he didn't like. Nice! Insert title trailer is a short submitted by Otis Singh, and it's presumably one of the greatest westerns since Bone Tomahawk, or presumably it will be once the full movie is released someday. Up next is the Jacob Sukamera submitted Ghosts and Zombies, as well as The Hunt for Kong. Jacob submitted these shorts with the line, "My first and second films that never got the recognition that they deserved." We disagree! Up next is Video Dating by Chrissy Breen, a stop-motion surreal callback to the old days of video dating from the 80s, baby. We all remember it. I was only 37 back then. Now I'm 11. Bend my back and my bend up to the time frame then. Oh, yeah. You guys all remember that hit classic single from the 80s when Videodrome and video dating and video day things were all in full swing? Because I remember that too. Boo, boo, boo. Anyway, Chrissy Breen's stop-motion surreal callback to the old days of video editing uses a combination of text screens and magazine cutouts and possibly improvisational VO to paint a hilarious and joyfully funny minute-and-a-half short that really makes us want to see more from Breen. Rat movie. We all know Rat movie. Sing the song. Rats, we're the rats. I'm the giant big rat that kill your dad. It's a Germa production, which was submitted to us by Max Loftus, who is presumably related to Jamie Loftus of the Bechdel cast. Rat movie is at this point a pop culture classic, which has firmly cemented itself in the collective unconscious of any human being under 25. And for good reason, it stands the test of time as an incredible PS1-looking short film in which Germa voices nearly every single absurd character. Joe's Happy Place by Alexander Fangold. It's a minute-and-a-long half clip of a man eating what appears to be American Chinese food, rather picking at it in front of a countless number of Budweiser cans while occasionally frowning in the dark. Or, in other words, rock bottom. Glap is an Icelandic short from Gustav Berg that employs perhaps the only effective use of low contrast to black and white. Clocking in exactly 1 minute, Glap functions as telling a singular micro-narrative, a reminder of the 50s and 60s horror to boot as well. Continuing from there, we have Synapse, a short from Harvey Jeeves that's not hard to like. From the great visuals, despite the fact that the whole thing is shot at night with what appear to be only ambient lights except for a last handful of shots, the great color work, the runtime that doesn't extend itself unnecessarily, there's a lot there to enjoy. The only real downside is that occasionally the geography ends up in question as a result of the handheld camera work employed in Synapse. It's always nice to see a comedic short that doesn't use the fact that it's comedy as an excuse for shitty filmmaking. While it's clear that Ben Shapiro and the Ghost Hunter are having a lot of fun, they always take the time to make sure a shot is in focus and actually composed coherently. The belligerent performances from both of our characters are uproariously funny, sometimes as an actual point is made, and this video deserved 10 times the amount of views it has, minimum. Another comedic but more serious short at the same time is Santa's Factory, the cold hard truth from Milan Medzebratsky. It's a found footage style mockumentary about Santa Claus, but instead of the cheery old man we know, he's an absolute monster of a human being. And as funny as that concept may sound on its own, it's played pretty straight but by all the actors, and as a result can often be legitimately gruesome, while at other moments evokes the dry humor of shows like Into the Shadows. Instance. Up next, we have one of the few stop-motion shorts that we were submitted other than video dating, baby. This one is called The Abortion. It's an unnerving, dark, uncomfortable short from Zachary King. Although the story isn't clear, the final shot is upsetting, and the edges of the low production value are hidden most of the time with relatively clever lighting choices on a whole. Zachary King also submitted his intro for a show called Avian Man, a hyper-stylized, jazzy, well-edited opening sequence that could go blow for blow with the second-to-last draft of the Cowboy Bebop opening sequence. Probably. It's not time to relax. A music video is the thing we're going to talk about next. It's directed by Albasant Smith. It was submitted to us by musician and lyricist Fernando Dale. Now, before we get into this, I'm really going to just tell you guys, you should probably go check this out because it's pretty good if you like things that sound good. The song itself is a dreamy, ethereal mix of drunken chorus guitar, whispered vocal refrains, reverb, and semi-melancholic lyrics. Overall, it's kind of a banger. And it surprises us that this video doesn't have more views, especially considering how much it contributes to that ironically relaxing dreamlike quality that the song evokes through its use of soft focus, 8mm style, low contrast, and pretty warm color palette overall. Do you like hockey? Do you like memoirs? Well, then you're really gonna love the Simon Rusinski short, Hockey, a probably fully autobiographical memoir, a stream of consciousness story of Rusinski's life set to home video as well as archival footage, which from moment one sucks you in with Simon's breathlessly fast delivery from start to finish when he stops on a dime. Realization. And the film leaves you to ruminate completely on your own. Do you like laughter? Do you like hockey? I was asking you about hockey earlier, but now I'm asking you about laughter. Is that something you like to do? I know I like to laugh too. Like to tap dance every once in a while, even when I'm not wearing shoes, cause I got style and I'm the same guy from earlier. I did not absorb him girlier and kill him with a wrench to the skull and then tie him up to a chair back there. Giggly Funny Times is a set of pictures and videos vertically shot, thrown to some music from the perspective of the creator, Jim Hummery. Honestly, slay queen. Hashtag living your best life. The Joker plus Skilo's I Wish is a compilation from Atulia Dorlasky that is exactly what it sounds like, and twice as funny as exactly what it sounds like. Up next, the Joey by Cody Murphy is what can only be presumed as a legitimate power fantasy of one Joey Castle to murder a defenseless man tied to a chair with a bat in what Murphy himself describes as a, quote, racist rage? Hopefully this doesn't inspire others to follow in Joey Castle's footsteps of legitimate real-life tyranny. One minute DJ edit from Caleb Townsend is 2 minutes long. It is not 1 minute, it is 2, which is twice the amount of 1. It should either be half the length or twice the title, because 1 is not 2 and 2 is not 1. Plus, no one even DJs the edit once! God! did it. This is the final one. I got to the final one. I got to the final one. This is the last short that was submitted. Shut up! This was the last short that was submitted to us. Alex Faingold and Callum Young's title is a masterclass on how not to mix your fucking audio levels. Jesus Christ! I'm going to come to your house and well, folks, that's all she wrote. Thank you to everyone who submitted a film, and thank you so much for watching our award show. If you're interested in more incredible content like this, be sure to subscribe, because we upload hundreds of hours of our network's various talk shows to this platform every single day. I've been your host. I'll see you next year. Good luck, everybody!